Can Donald the deal-maker do it? Stephen Evans, BBC News, South Korea.
Well, as we heard there, Donald Trump is trying to work with his Chinese counterpart to contain North Korea. He's extravagantly praised Xi Jinping as a very good man who cares about his country. And this has been one of the themes of his first 100 days, that he's the billionaire businessman who knows how to deal with fellow world leaders. It is fair, however, to describe his presidential style as unconventional. Well, let's discuss Trump's first 100 days with Ryan Girdusky from Red Alert Politics in New York. And here with me in the studio, Brian Klass, a fellow at the London School of Economics. Ryan, if we can come to you first, the way that Donald Trump deals with other world leaders, how do you think he's doing?
I think he's doing a fairly good job. I think that he's done a better job than a lot of his critics have presumed he would do, especially when it comes to China, not walking into China just aggressively out of the box and willing to work with them in order to get some compromise on North Korea. Relationships with Angela Merkel are not as warm as they would have been under a previous president, but Ivanka Trump is in Europe trying to sway some world leaders. So we'll see. Benjamin Netanyahu likes him. I think that it's going better than expected by many of his critics.
And Brian, there is a case for saying he's unconventional, but he might get results that way.
Well, he might, but he hasn't, and I think that's important. I think that business and politics are different. So in business, if you bully someone, if you push them into a corner, if you're the bigger player, you win. In politics, he's made it politically toxic for rulers to do deals with him. In Iran, in Mexico, etc., those politicians in those countries know that if they work with Donald Trump, they are going to lose re-election. So he's made it very difficult for compromise to actually happen, and that's where the grand deal maker hasn't actually materialized yet.
Ryan, toxic Trump, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, a lot of the countries are not holding elections in the near future. I mean, the president of Mexico, for instance, can't even run for re-election according to the nation's constitution. Iran has been working with the agreement that President Obama set up better than during the previous administration. And certainly with some world leaders, he's been working very, very well, like the president of China. So I think that is a misconstrued opinion being presented as fact.
And Ryan, what about Donald Trump's domestic audience, which I guess is the audience he really cares about? How do you think he is rated as we come up to 100 days?
You know, as somebody who supported President Trump during the primary and the general, it's a mixed bag. I think on issues like the economy, justices, deregulation, he's done a fantastic job, exactly what I hoped for. On other things, such as DACA, on immigration, on building the wall, he's been less impressive than I've hoped for. So I think that is a mixed bag. I'm concerned about some people that he's surrounding himself with, and I'm hoping that this is just the first 100 days and that the next 3 years plus present the Trump that I personally voted for.
Brian, President Trump's own people have been saying, well, come on, look, 100 days isn't a very long time to judge me.
That's true, but let's judge him by his own barometer then. So he said in a contract with the American voter that he would pass and sign 10 bills in the first 100 days. He has signed none of them. He has no major legislative achievements. President Obama had 4 in the first 50 days. And beyond that, let's also keep in mind that he has an active FBI investigation going on in the first 100 days as to whether he colluded or his campaign colluded with a foreign adversary to interfere in American elections. So, you know, I mean, the questions about the executive orders, deregulation, this is a drop in the bucket. He's the most unpopular president in U.S. history since polling began. He's under active FBI investigation for colluding with a foreign adversary, and he's passed no major legislation. How can we possibly say this is a mixed bag? It's an overly rosy assessment. So far, this has been a very bad presidency.
Ryan, I think you were shaking your
head
there.
That is wildly untrue. He signed 12 deregulation bills in the first 100 days alone. He signed a bill for veterans that they could seek hospital care outside the Walter Reed facilities. He has signed multiple pieces of legislation. There are several other ones waiting for him. So the problem of legislation is more on the fault of Congress and Paul Ryan and Paul Ryan's inability to get past the health care bill and tax reform, that is not to do with the president, and I have been less than accepting of his results, but that is seriously not true. And as far as the FBI investigation goes, there is no FBI investigation on Donald Trump. There is James Comey said there's an FBI investigation on people that were on his campaign. That is not the same thing as Donald Trump being under investigation.
Let's actually explain what the legislation comparison is here. So you're right, he signed some deregulation bills. He signed something that removed, for example, the stream protection rule, which allows coal companies to dump more waste into streams. Now you compare that to Obama. In the first 50 days of his presidency, a $787 billion economic stimulus package, 4 million more children got health insurance, the Lilly Ledbetter Gender Pay Equity Act, and also, not to mention, the entire government's budget. We're talking about a government shutdown, and he has achieved nothing other than making it easier for companies to pollute and renaming some VA hospitals, including one in Pago Pago, Samoa, which Sean Spicer is counting in the top 24 bills he's signed. So, I mean, this is a smoke and mirrors presidency where there's a flurry of activity, but the substance is extremely limited.
Ryan, substance.
Okay, once again, though, the Democratic Congress, the day President Obama became president in 2008, had those bills waiting and ready. Paul Ryan did not. I'm not sitting here accepting but that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Once again, you're equating everything that goes wrong with Donald Trump when he has absolutely no control over what Congress does. I don't agree with Congress's agenda. I've criticized Paul Ryan left and right. That being said, getting a Supreme Court justice through in the first 100 days and signing what he has signed is substantial. Doing the executive orders he's done is substantial, and hopefully he goes on from here. But yet and still, what Nancy Pelosi did and what Paul Ryan did, yes, are two entirely different things. That has nothing to do with President Trump.
We have to leave it there. Ryan Girdusky in New York, Brian Klass here with me in our studio. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.